Cincinnati transfer Dan Skillings is headed to Baylor. Another commitment for Scott Drew and the Bears to help bolster that backcourt, help bolster that perimeter unit. Skillings was a part of, let's just call it what it is, a disappointing season for Cincinnati. There was some hope that Cincinnati could take a step forward. A lot of people had them picked as a breakout team to watch this season, self included. Skillings was a big part of that after a really good second season with the Bearcats. There was hope that they would take a step forward. He did undergo a minor knee procedure in November that somewhat limited him, caused him to take a step back, at least production wise, last season. Cincinnati did as well. He's now hoping for a fresh start at Baylor. Dion, what do you make of his game? What do you make of his fit with Baylor? Does it seem like a good fit on paper?
If it was gonna work for Skillings, it would be at Baylor. Um,
Okay.
I don't know. He struggled. Can't really shoot the ball under 30% for his, throughout his career. Just about 30 last year, though, 29.9. If he can get it up a tick or two to about 32%, I think you can live with it. This is a 6'6" wing with a 7 foot wingspan. That's why Scott Drew wants him. The idea is on the defensive end. If he buys in, he's going to be somebody that's going to be really tough to score against. If he buys in. So I think you're bringing him in for defense, hoping that there's some upside with his shooting as well. Um, and you hope he can kind of make that next step. Not an overly phenomenal athlete. Like he does his athleticism doesn't pop off on tape, but he's not unathletic. Like he's a good athlete. And then you mix that in with the wingspan. I think you're hoping he can finish around the rim as well as shoot the ball just a tick or two better than he did last year.
The defense is key to me and why I think this is a good addition for Baylor. Because Baylor's perimeter defense, each of the last three seasons, like since they won the title, has been atrocious. It's just been downright bad. Wonder why Baylor hasn't made a run in the tournament since they won the national championship. Lack of perimeter defense is why. I think you bring Skillings in to be that perimeter defender. I don't know if you want him to be your primary lockdown guy. He may end up being that for Baylor, but he's certainly going to bolster that unit and make it so that it's not a weakness, which I think is a major plus for Baylor here. He went from being a starter to this past season only starting 13 of the 29 games he played in, so his usage dropped as well. Do you think he becomes more of a bench player for Baylor and they use him, 20, 25 minutes per game for that defense? Or is he somebody who's should start and play a pretty decent role?
I think he's a bench player for Baylor. But like a high end bench player, like I think you could see him playing 20, 25 minutes still because he could play a lot of different positions. I think he could fill in anywhere from the two through the four. And I could see him being the first guy off the bench for all those positions.
Mhm.
High energy guy. I think the less minutes he plays, the more it fits the role you want him to play on the defensive end specifically, where he's able to be more physical, use his fouls a little bit more, use his energy a little bit more, and not have to worry about playing 35 minutes, not getting in foul trouble. Because he's a guy that struggles shooting the ball. Once he's in foul trouble, that kind of takes away from everything he's looking to do a little bit.
Mhm.
So I like him more in the bench role. Like I said, if it were to work, it's gonna work at Baylor.
You might notice there's a lot of lights on behind me. There's a big ring light I'm using to record this. You want to know why those lights stay on? Because of Underdog, because of these ad reads, people.
Yeah, we heard your feedback. You're annoyed that we keep putting underdog ads in the middle of our videos. Well, guess what? We got to keep the lights on and we need some people to sign up for Underdog Fantasy. If you like these videos, if you want us to keep making videos, sign up with Underdog Fantasy, use promo code SLEEPERS, and they actually have an awesome offer for you. You can receive up to $1,000 in bonus credits. 50% of your first deposit will be distributed in bonus credits, and you get a free pick. And Cart, I got a pick with Underdog Fantasy for this weekend that I'm already eyeing. We got the Pistons and the Knicks, first playoff series in a while for our favorite team. Cade Cunningham over 27.5 points. I'm taking higher than that for my pick with Underdog. Promo code SLEEPERS. Sign up with Underdog Fantasy. It helps the show. It helps us keep making these videos for you. Back to the show.
It would be great if they still had Rob Wright because I think Skillings would go really well next to Rob Wright. And even Langston Love too. Both those guys are now at BYU and Georgetown respectively. I think it's interesting who Scott Drew has brought into this point because a lot of them are more defensive leaning. Like they brought in Jocelyn Bodo from High Point, who is a defense first guy. And so you have Skillings as well, who's a defense first guy. There seems to be a renewed commitment to that side of the ball or end of the court, which is, I think, a good thing for Baylor. But this is the first time in a little bit I've wondered like where Baylor is going to get enough scoring from.
It's the first time?
First time in a while.
Really?
Yeah,
I
I mean,
wanted it
last year,
last.
like, oh, well, like you need a bucket. You got VJ Edgecombe, who's going to do some stuff. They
Oh,
don't,
you mean like individually?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know Scott Drew's going to, get points.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna
who's
say
that
even
dynamic offensive guard? Which makes you think if you don't Skillings, you may rely on him to do a little bit more of that, which I then think you're just getting the Skillings you got at Cincinnati, which is a fine player, but not somebody who's going to win you the kind of things Baylor wants to win.
I think for what it's worth, I'm not sure. Excuse me. I really love Rob Wright's game. I'm not sure he changes my opinion on that though. The bucket part.
Eh,
Uh, I think what makes Baylor the mystique of Baylor when I think about the national title team was um, they had a lot of different guys that could get the bucket.
yeah.
This team might not have that, but like I feel like what made this past year's Baylor team a little bit more predictable is you knew VJ was going to get the ball. And I think that actually kind of hurt them a little bit. Now this team doesn't have three or four guys I think can go get them a bucket though. But that I think that's a little bit of the mystique of Baylor. That's their way of getting over the hump, kind of Houston style.
Yeah, they are taking on much more of that kind of identity, which fits in the Skillings. I'm just a little concerned that like you're gonna have to your Skillings is gonna end up in a more offensive facing role, which again I think will limit your ceiling. I think Skillings is a good player, but I think he is at your best as a uh, primary defender and a secondary scoring option, not somebody who you're relying on to make a lot of threes or do a lot of creation.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, he hasn't shown that he can self-create, right? And it's very hard to self-create when, respectfully to Dan Skillings, there is one avenue of his game no one is concerned about, and that's shooting the three. And then also, if you are a attack the basket guy, and I'm just gonna make a comparison to my Warriors because we're in the playoffs now, and it's on my brain. Jonathan Kuminga is one of the most athletic players in the sport, regardless of the level. He can finish at will at the basket. He shoots 60% from the free throw line, so he gets fouled. I look at Dan Skillings and I'm like, if that's your MO, where it's like I can't necessarily shoot the three ball, but I'm going to get to the rack. I'm going to get mine that way. You can't shoot 61% because you're just going to get fouled.
Yeah.
And teams are going to send you to the free throw line, and then you're not going to want to take the hits anymore, and you're going to stop going to the basket as much as before. It's a trickle down thing. So I feel like if he is the guy you're relying on, he has some clear deficiencies that are going to take away from that. But it is Scott Drew. It is Scott Drew. You never know.
Scott Drew will figure it out, give the benefit of the doubt, but this is certainly a quality addition. Dan Skillings is a quality player. Don't mean to mince words about that. It's a good get for Baylor. We'll see the kind of role he has and what it means for this Baylor team as a whole.